When Dead Space first arrived back in 2008, gamers praised it for its use of atmosphere and other game designs to deliver a truly frightening experience. Since then, the survival horror genre has had its fair shares of ups and downs, and recent announcements of Dead Space 3 and Resident Evil 6 have gamers debating about their new directions and ultimately the future of the genre. Is survival horror a casualty of this generation? Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the GamerNerdz Sudden Death. I'm Voyce.
Thanks.
So I don't think that survival horror is a casualty of this generation.
I think the exact opposite. I think a lot of games tried to rejuvenate the genre, and what they ended up doing in the process was killing it off. You look at Resident Evil, which has become the Michael Bay of video games. It's filled with explosions. It does not have the suspense. The pinnacle was Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 5 tried to emulate it, which was fun, but it had boulder punching. Resident Evil 6 just looks even more explosion filled, and honestly, I think that series needs a reboot because it's dead.
I hate the fact they start Resident Evil because I cannot defend against it.
You can't.
I can't. Sorry. But listen, I'm gonna go into Dead Space, a game that you and I have debated a lot about off camera. Dead Space 1 and 2 definitely were scary games. You felt claustrophobic. Engineer Isaac lost in space. It really set the pinnacle for what scary games were when it came out. Dead Space 3 was announced. A lot of people are complaining, and you too, about the sidekick. Everyone's worried that co-op is gonna reduce on the amount of scares. It's gonna be more action oriented. Now, I have to disagree. I don't think EA or Visual Games is that dumb. The senior VP of global marketing at EA even mentioned that they only included co-op because some people feel more comfortable playing these kind of games with someone else, but it was still gonna retain the scares.
The same person also said that they spoke to gamers and they said Dead Space 2 was too scary. Now it wasn't, because Dead Space 2 borrowed a lot from the first title. A lot of the scares were set up in the same way. Dead Space 1 was the king of the genre because at the time it was going up against Resident Evil 5, which again had boulder punching. It was intense, it was nerve-wracking, you were anxious, alone in space. Dead Space 2 was more of the same, and Dead Space 3 has this stupid wisecracking sidekick, as you mentioned. Universal ammo, you can create crazy guns which look really cool. The recent Gamescom trailer showed us a whole new side of the game, but I'm really worried. The action trailer, again, was a montage. Some of the scenes are in the daylight. It just seems something is missing. I'm sure it's gonna be a great game, and when it does come out, we will review it and enjoy it. I don't think it's gonna be a survival horror game as their previous titles, and there's gonna be other titles taking over it.
I don't think EA is dumb enough to alienate their original fan base. They know that people love this game because it was scary. I don't think they're gonna go purely action oriented. I do think EA and Visual Games made clear mistakes with the trailers they've been showing, because all you're kind of showing us is validating our fears.
It's just a lot of guns and explosions.
I think the game is gonna retain its scares. I think the co-op might actually add to the scare tactics. Remember Doom 3? Doom 3 HD is coming out. Having co-op made the game even scarier because there was this sense of just uncertainty. You had to rely on your teammates. Certain levels where it was completely dark. One person had a flashlight, one person had a gun.
It was a fantastic game. It was full of jumpy scares and all, but going back to Dead Space 3 quickly, the thing that scared me the most about what the producers said is that a game like Dead Space has to sell 5 million copies. And for it to sell 5 million copies, it has to have these features. They're adding features to a game that doesn't need it, and the end result, I pray, is not Lost. It is not another Resident Evil. Looks like it's going that way.
I think EA is not gonna alienate their fan base. The inclusion of the co-op was because they want to get more people playing these games. I still think it's gonna be scary. Doom 4, we've seen nothing on it, but it is gonna be coming out at some point. id Software closed down their mobile division just to focus on Doom 4. At least that's the story they're going with. I hope it's true.
Previous survival horror franchises that really have lost their way. Silent Hill now. The recent HD collection on Xbox 360 was so bug-ridden, was such a mess. Konami decided not to go through with the patch. I mean, that's just a admission to failure. Fear Now, the first one was really great, really scary with Alma in-your-face jump scares, but the third one you mentioned was just action-packed.
Totally agree when it comes to Fear. Totally agree when it comes to Silent Hill. They've lost their way, definitely. One major game that's gonna be coming out, and again it was introduced at E3 2012, was ZombiU. Survival horror game by Ubisoft. I don't think it's gonna be necessarily scary. It looks like it's gonna be really intense. It's gonna be nerve-wracking, using the Wii tablet to maneuver the environments. At the same time, you have zombies chasing at you. It's gonna be good.
When they first showed it, it looked like Dead Island, but actually good. There's full interaction on the Wii tablet. You have zombies that are slowly lumbering towards you. You have very limited ammo. It's all happening in real time. The environments look scary, and there's permadeath. So you die, you're dead, reanimated as a zombie, and the next character you play as can actually kill your previous character. It's gonna be a Wii U launch title, and I really think that's gonna set the tone for the next generation of games.
Right there, you have to admit that survival horror is not dead.
It's not dead, but I think the current franchise title holders are gone. They have left the ring, and there's gonna be new games coming to take the place. Now, we only need to look far back as Gamescom of all places, because there's a bunch of survival horror games that we were not expecting. The least expected game, Until Dawn, for PlayStation Move of all that, looks like a real homage to survival B-horror, cheesy 80s movies. I don't think that's gonna replace something like Dead Space, but what will replace something like Dead Space is a game called Routine.
When we were watching the trailer, the first thing he keeps pointing out to me was the floppy disks.
That's the scariest thing.
Why are there floppy disks? They're in space. What it kind of reminded me of was Space Odyssey, but it had a very old school VHS degraded quality look to it. It looks like it's gonna be scary. We don't know much about it. It's just
almost
a
nothing.
Small trailer, but it looks like it might be one of those games to, as you say, resurrect the survival horror franchise, even though I don't think it's dead.
So there you have it, guys. We want to know what you think. Are current gen survival horror games carrying the genre to the next generation? Or do we need to look forward to next gen consoles exclusively because current gen developers are out of ideas?
Listen, we heard our opinions, want to hear yours. Leave your thoughts in the comment below. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. See you next time on The GamerNerdz, sudden death.
Or do we have to go to the next generation console because developers are completely out of ideas?
I still think
or survival horror games represent the current...
Was it a pun? I am...
Man, it was so good.
All the gamer nerds. See you next time on the game... Why did you start laughing?
Do you think current survival horror genre games represent the industry well? Because it's an industry all of a sudden?
Opinions, we want to hear yours. What happened? I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like